Hey there, friends! Welcome back to another riveting episode where we'll explore the dramatic story of Venezuela, once an economic powerhouse, now grappling with hyperinflation. What can the United States learn from this cautionary tale? So buckle up, grab a snack, and let's dive into this roller coaster of a story. And don't forget to comment with your thoughts and share some love by hitting that like button. The golden days of Venezuela and the American dream. Before we dive into the chaos that is hyperinflation, let's take a trip back in time to when Venezuela was the belle of the ball in Latin America. In the early 20th century, Venezuela discovered oil and transformed into one of the world's largest oil exporters. This oil boom in the 1970s led to prosperity and growth, a growing middle class, and urbanization. As we go further back in time, we find that Venezuela's first oil well was drilled in 1914. The oil industry's impact on the economy and society cannot be understated, and Venezuela became a founding member of OPEC. However, this over-reliance on oil led to the phenomenon known as the Dutch disease, which affected Venezuela's economy by causing the decline of other industries, such as agriculture and manufacturing. Attempts to diversify the economy faced various challenges. Now, let's look at the United States during the same period. The American dream was alive and well, with millions of people finding prosperity through hard work and innovation. The U.S. experienced significant economic growth, thanks in part to a booming manufacturing sector and a strong middle class. However, just like Venezuela, the United States has increasingly relied on a single source of economic growth, finance and the stock market, leaving the country vulnerable to economic shocks. As we examine the rise and fall of these two nations, can you think of any parallels in their histories? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Chavez and the Bolivarian Revolution, the United States and populist politics. Enter stage left. Hugo Chavez, a charismatic leader promising a brighter future for Venezuela. In 1992, Chavez led a coup attempt and was subsequently imprisoned. Fast forward to 1998, and he was elected as the leader of Venezuela, marking the beginning of the Bolivarian Revolution. Chavez's socialist policies included land reform, wealth redistribution, and nationalization. The early years of Chavez's rule saw a coup attempt against him in 2002, followed by the 2004 recall referendum, which he won. Chavez's popularity among the poor grew, as did his influence. The Bolivarian Missions, a series of social programs created to address poverty, education, and healthcare, were introduced. These programs saw mixed results and had a significant impact on the Venezuelan economy and society. Now let's turn our attention to the United States. Over the past few decades, we've seen a rise in populist politics on both sides of the political spectrum. Leaders promising to fight for the common man and address income inequality have gained popularity. As we look at the parallels between Chavez's rise to power and the United States, we must ask ourselves, are we also at risk of heading down a similar path? Just as Chavez's policies led to economic turmoil in Venezuela, populist policies in the United States could lead to unintended consequences, especially if they are not carefully designed or implemented. The growing wealth gap in the United States, along with concerns about the role of big corporations and the influence of money in politics, could create fertile ground for populist leaders to rise. Can anyone say, power trip? Chavez's time in office was marked by the concentration of power and a crackdown on opposition. But hey, at least the economy was booming, right? Well, not for long. The decline of oil prices in the 1980s resulted in economic turmoil. Mismanagement of oil revenue and the erosion of domestic industries became prevalent. The government's response included price controls, currency controls, and debt accumulation. We've all heard the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, Chavez certainly didn't get the memo. But things didn't stop there. Let's see what happens next. The Maduro Era and political polarization in the United States. With Chavez's passing in 2013, the torch was passed to his hand-picked successor, Nicolas Maduro. Spoiler alert, things didn't get better. The economic crisis under Maduro worsened, and the collapse of oil prices in 2014 had a devastating impact on the Venezuelan economy. The government's response included even more price controls, currency controls, and debt. Maduro's early years were marked by a disputed 2013 election and protests. He introduced the Homeland Card, which had a significant impact on political and social control. The 2017 protests and the controversial Constituent Assembly only added fuel to the fire. Under Maduro, the Venezuelan government attempted to use cryptocurrency, like the petro, to bypass sanctions. Meanwhile, the country continued to rely on oil exports despite a decline in production and became increasingly dependent on foreign aid and loans. As we look at the political turmoil in Venezuela, we can't help but notice similarities with the United States. Political polarization has reached a fever pitch, and the country is more divided than ever. Just as Venezuela's political crisis has had profound consequences for its economy and society, the United States must be wary of the dangers posed by deepening divisions. It's like watching a train wreck in slow motion, isn't it? But wait, there's more. Let's dive into the straw that broke the camel's back: hyperinflation. Hyperinflation unleashed, the United States and the perils of monetary policy. If you thought things were bad before, hold on to your hats, folks. The government's attempt to print money to finance its spending led to the loss of faith in the Venezuelan bolívar, causing its value to plummet. The soaring prices of goods and services led to a cost of living crisis. As we delve into the causes and consequences of hyperinflation, we find a strong connection between money printing and hyperinflation. The impact on savings, salaries, and purchasing power was devastating. When comparing this crisis with other historical examples of hyperinflation, we find striking similarities. The United States, with its massive national debt and reliance on monetary policy to stimulate economic growth, should take heed of Venezuela's experience. While the U.S. has managed to avoid hyperinflation so far, the potential risks associated with excessive money printing and fiscal irresponsibility cannot be ignored. The Federal Reserve's policies, such as low interest rates and quantitative easing, have the potential to create unintended consequences if not managed carefully. The human impact of this crisis cannot be overstated. The scarcity of food, medicine, and basic goods led to a humanitarian crisis. The mass migration of Venezuelans to neighboring countries and beyond has become a common sight, as well as the rise of crime and the decline in the quality of life. It's heartbreaking to see a country once brimming with potential reduced to such a dire state. So, what's next for Venezuela? Are there any glimmers of hope? And what lessons can the United States learn from this tragic tale? Looking forward, the road to recovery and lessons for the United States. As we reach the end of our journey, let's take a moment to consider what the future might hold for Venezuela. The ongoing struggle for political change and the role of the opposition are crucial factors. There's also the importance of rebuilding democratic institutions and restoring public trust. The prospects for economic recovery, including the potential for diversification, might offer a glimmer of hope. Venezuela's story is a cautionary tale for other countries, including the United States. The dangers of over-reliance on a single commodity, the importance of sound economic policies and fiscal responsibility, and the need for strong democratic institutions and checks and balances are all lessons that can be learned from this tragic tale. As we've seen, there are striking similarities between the situations in Venezuela and the United States. By learning from Venezuela's mistakes, the United States can avoid falling into the same trap. This requires a commitment to economic diversification, responsible fiscal policies, and a healthy democracy that values the voices of its citizens. Are there any lessons you think we should take away from this story? Let us know in the comments below. And that's a wrap on our whirlwind tour of Venezuela's journey through hyperinflation. We hope you enjoyed the ride and learned a thing or two. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Until next time, stay curious, and keep learning.